I'd like to start with each one of you just giving us a bit of your background and how you actually got into the cannabis industry. I'll start with you, Cheryl.
Okay, can you hear me? Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I've been in the cannabis industry since 1992, starting in the political and media areas, bringing attention to the AIDS crisis in the early 90s, and we were very influential on getting Prop 215 passed in California, which was the very first regulatory framework for medical marijuana in the entire world. And we worked through all of the other states. I worked internationally when I met you in Canada. And I fell in love with Malta when I was in the hospital having spinal cord surgery recently. And I saw it, and we'd already been talking. And I decided when I got through my cancer and surgeries that I was coming to Malta and I wanted to make a big difference here. And I fell in love with the island. So I just got here, and we've known each other for a long time. We've known each other for a long time. And I'm just honored to be here, and I'm here to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Maria?
So I had just started working at Malta Enterprise when actually the Maltese government decided to start working on a new regulatory framework for medical cannabis. And since I am a scientist by academic profession, I studied biology and chemistry, it was love at first sight. And I immediately immersed myself in this industry, and it's something that I am very passionate and enjoy working on.
Luana?
I am a pharmacist by profession. So during my academic years, medical use of cannabis was quite unspoken of. Then during my research in pain and psychiatric disorders, I started to get more involved. It was not related to cannabis because until recently, of course, it was illegal. However, I remember my encounters with the patients. For example, one particular patient, I was collecting the data and discussing what medications these patients are on. And she would be like, listen, I also take cannabis for my symptoms, but do not include this in my records. So when I wore the regulatory hat now as director at the Medicines Authority, it was a way of implementing. My interest here is an opportunity to actually get the policies made right for our patients. It is an opportunity to actually implement regulation in a sensible way without going overboard.
Excellent. Jeanette, you bring an interesting perspective, having been probably the only CEO of 2 Canadian companies and now on to the third. Would love to hear your perspective from, obviously Canada and the stigma you think women face, if you think women face, in the industry.
It's been a challenge in Canada. So my background, I actually grew up in an agricultural family, and then I became a critical care registered nurse, working in healthcare, which is where I got the interest for cannabis. Personal tragedy story, sadly my daughter passed away from Dravet syndrome, which is characterized by uncontrollable epilepsy. So it really was what piqued my interest. She passed away in 2003. Around 2009, I started hearing about cannabinoids being used to treat intractable epilepsies and other conditions. So we didn't have an industry in Canada at that time, so we had applied to do research on clinical trials, and our government at the time said, well, you kind of have to grow it because there's no source to get cannabis. So I said, well, I'm a farmer. I can grow anything. So founded a company called the Green Organic Dutchman, incorporated that in 2011. Since then I founded Good and Green, another company in Canada. I merged that into 48 North, where I was the co-CEO there. And recently I've just been brought on by Believe Cannabis, which is another Canadian public traded company, to be the CEO there. It's been a challenge in Canada. Because our industry was very capital intensive, it was primarily venture capitalists and big money coming in quickly, and a lot of the junior miners. And because of that, there was the nepotism of the Boys Network that really took most of the leadership roles. And currently in Canada, sadly, we have less than 5% of our board seats are held by women in the public traded cannabis companies, and something that I worked very hard to change.
Reggae?
Yeah. I started in 2013 with a father with cancer, so I'm from the grassroots, and from there, when he died, unfortunately, where I helped him with the legal THC-rich cannabis to accomplish his side effects from chemotherapy. After he died, I was really appalled that the patient didn't have access to safe medicine, cannabis medicine, So I was a co-founder for an association and sat as a chairman. And later on, we merged with Cannabis Denmark, who I'm CEO to today. And in all that time, I have done some lobbying work with others, but we were one of them to promote this pilot program to the politicians and lobbied and try to get them to understand one of the things that we have I think we had a survey in 2015 with 50,000 Danish patients out on the legal market. Second of all, we told them what we could do with medical cannabis. It could be a personalized medicine as one of the few medicines here in the world. It could be a personalized medicine, life science. And the third of all, we could cultivate it ourselves. So also we have some talks with our agricultural associations, and that's one of the reasons we have cultivation in Denmark today. Yes.
Thanks. Sita.
Yeah, hello. Well, I'm
We're here.
Yeah, excellent. So, I'm a fully qualified attorney, and I have a company which brings external pharmaceutical companies to Germany. And then I was in 2016 approached by the Pharmaceutical Industry Association that there is a company who is looking for support for the German market. And this is a very new company, and the compound is new, and there is no regulation, and the supervising authorities have also no clue, and if I want to assist. And I thought, okay, you can't do anything wrong here. It is so, yeah, I took the challenge, and it was a fantastic journey, and I met fantastic people.
Thank you. As we look to build a new industry in many places, or recreate a legal industry in some cases, what are the things that we should actually look for as regulators, as government, as industry, as patient advocates, and as consultants, and all, what should we do to make sure that we're setting up an inclusive and diverse industry? I'd like each of you to comment on it. Cheryl, I'll start with you if you want to add some thoughts, and we'll go down.
Okay, well, the first thing is that women truly have power in this industry, unlike any other industry that's ever been attempted. And when you look at the actual studies and marketing forums and all of that, whether it be a political study or what have you, 87% of all household decisions are made by the woman. We're generally the caretakers, we're the ones that have the babies, and so forth and so on. So being a woman is very, very important. But starting back in the early 90s, the only women that were in this industry were bud babes, and they were usually the girlfriends of the black market growers. And most of the time when I would see them and go into the dispensaries in Los Angeles, they were topless with little marijuana leaves over there. And there's no way women can be taken seriously that way. And there was a real shortage of women coming forward. I was diagnosed with cancer and was given literally a few months to live. And the problem was no one who were women of substance, women who were moms, career women, no one was speaking publicly at that time, because you can lose your children, you can lose your home, you can lose your job. And fortunately, I didn't have to worry about that, because, when you're dying, you have no fear. Your only hope is really to live. And that's when I met Dr. Meshulam and a lot of other scientists and learned truly that there was another option. And I remember when I woke up on my supposedly death day, March 19th was my birthday, so please make a note, I'll be expecting gifts. But I remember waking up and looking down at my toe tag, and I wasn't in the morgue because they put a toe tag on you in the morgue. And I thought, from this moment on, I'm going to do everything I can to stand up, to stand proud, to be out loud and make a difference in the world. And I knew that even though I might be the first corporate woman or career woman, I was also a mom, and I was in the health industry and the political industry. And I thought, you know what? I don't know if any of you have heard of a woman by the name of Pauline Sabin. Okay, she was the woman who changed the course of alcohol prohibition. So I looked at her history and how she did it, and how did she do it? So what did she have? She had wealthy contacts. Okay, I've got wealthy contacts. She knew a lot of celebrities back then. My whole work world evolved around celebrities. Okay, check. A woman of substance, I had my own money, so I didn't have to worry about someone taking my job from me. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, if not me, who? And if not now, when? And I just got tired, quite frankly, of seeing a lot of my friends and my loved ones dying. And when you have nothing to lose, you just go for it. So that's what I did, and I started a massive media campaign, and to date, we have generated over $3 billion worth of earned media. And to put that in perspective, that's more than the Fortune 500 companies combined. And earned media is totally different than paid media. And that's when I realized that we were really making a difference. And that's when I set forth to go not only from the US, because I'd already conquered all of that, but that's when I met you in Toronto when I was with Jacobs Securities. So let's talk about Jacobs Securities and some of the investment banking firms. The minute that Canada started going legal and going public, I started getting calls from all of the investment bankers, all of the private equity guys, and the calls went like something like this. Hey, we just saw you on CNBC, you're fabulous, love you, sounds like a great thing, but we want to hire you because we're going to get into this business. That's how I ended up at Jacobs. And we don't have the time to learn everything that you already know, so come and work with us. And that's when we started raising money for all the Canadian companies. And I thought, why stop at Canada? Why not Latin America? So then I opened up the Mexican market and so forth and so on. And then I found Malta, and that's why I'm here, and I've been spending a lot of time through Europe. So I believe that we can make a difference, and it's just by, the secret of women is networking, and bringing new women in, whether it be women of color, women of diversity, no matter black, brown, green, I don't care. Get involved, because this is a tremendous industry to be in, and it's where women can really dominate.
Marianne?
I think the opportunity that is being presented by this industry is huge. If we just look at the fact that we have an unprecedented rate of university students who are female in our university. So for instance, at the moment, 60% of the university population in Malta is female, is women. Even if we look at the employment rate in Malta, we have an unprecedented high rate of 64% of women in employment in an age cohort between 20 and 60. So that is huge. So all these women who are now in the workforce, who are now at university, have all this opportunity. When, for instance, other industries were given birth, like, I don't know, the automotive, the information technology sector, the pharmaceutical sector, there weren't as many women in the workforce or in university as there are now. So if women are ready to take up this opportunity that this industry is presenting, I think we can make it actually to the top of the industry. The problem is that I am still not seeing enough women at the top of leading companies. So I have been meeting CEOs all over the world, but only a handful were actually women. And that makes me think, why is it so? What is it? Is it a case of nature or nurture? Is it because women do not take the risk? Is it because we have certain qualities which are different from the qualities that can allow a male person to just risk it all and found a new company, for instance? Or is it because the environment is not enabling enough? So you find a lot of women in cannabis who are in policy making, regulatory frameworks, in patient lobbying groups, but not enough in C-level positions in huge corporations.
And that's a very valid point. I completely agree with you. I'll let the rest finish and come back and explain some challenges that I've had setting up my own business and recruiting women. But Luana, I'll switch to you.
Yes, I agree with what Marian is saying. However, these barriers to women being in the cannabis industry are not specifically related to cannabis, as in they're evident in most of the other businesses in the economy. Even on the regulatory side, on the enforcement side, for example, we have not as yet seen any women as the very top positions in the police force, in the army, for example. So cannabis might represent a breakthrough with the vision of women to actually innovate and proceed in these areas, help them in being different from what we are used to seeing. What Marian is saying as well on the executives, in women as executives, again, this area shows that cannabis is being an opportunity for women because there are more women as executives in the cannabis industry compared to other businesses. Well, to be honest, with us women, sometimes it works by reverse psychology. So the women who actually get there have gone through so many things and have proved themselves so many times that the result is that they do give actual tangible outcomes.
Jeanette?
Yeah, it's been interesting. The first several years in the industry, I don't think I was ever in a meeting, whether it be in a finance meeting or raising capital or doing road shows, that I wasn't the only woman in the room other than maybe somebody's assistant. So it was very unusual. Still in Canada, out of, I believe we have over 100 publicly traded companies, I believe there's 4 female CEOs, of which I'm one. I think some of the challenges really are because there is that structure that's existing. And I think it's really important for us to assess women applicants and really promote from within. And when we find a woman that's showing leadership qualities, make sure, or obviously a minority person of any gender, or non-gender, non-binary as well, to make sure that we find those transferable skills. And one example I use is, I might hire a lead cultivator who's a guy who's run a big greenhouse. Or maybe it's a woman who's run a smaller market garden, but at the same concurrently, she's been raising 4 kids and taking them to soccer and hockey and managing the books. She's got a better skill set at multitasking and really managing a number of things. So it's weighing our applicants and our things with a gender lens on it, because women do tend to do multiple roles. So I always try to look at whether it be my hiring practices or promotions within the company with a gender lens, and realize that there are different segments and skill sets that women have that may not look the same on a resume, but are certainly more applicable. So I'd like to see more women do that and more companies do that. I'm also a big fan of women on board and things like that really help to encourage women to take those leadership and C-suite roles. It is challenging, but I'm a big fan of the C1 to B1, and hopefully we can mentor more young women and people of color to get into these roles.
Reggie?
Yeah, I agree with you, because I'm really an idiot for earning money. I'm never going to have that position, not at all. But cost effective, women are great. Women are great. For instance, I'm a single mother. I have 2 children, cat and a dog, who I need to deliver each time I'm traveling, for instance, to Malta. And also, I'm working right now from the plant to the patients, because there was a gap when we had our pilot program. And yes, your name is Cannabis Denmark. Of course, we have to approach something with cannabis, because there's no other organization in Denmark. So everybody comes to Cannabis Denmark, even though we started up as a patient and research organizations. Now it's investments from abroad, it's researchers from abroad, and everything's going through our organization. That's what we are 1.8 employees in our organization. That's not much to have this whole gap in Denmark. So just bring on all the money. It's just a little commercial, because we are a non-profit.
Sira?
Well, I think that this is less the problem of your industry, because you are very young, you are very progressive. I'm sure you have tough moms at home and tough sisters, so I think you learned already your part. But looking at the industry in general, I think first is, when you start, is first to take the women off the second and third line, because it's not our problem and not our issue to be on board of whatever. But the second and third line women, need encouragement to be taken. And being a founding member also of a Females Association in Germany, we have a mentoring program. And they ask, okay, Ms. Schubert, what can I do to be successful? And the first thing to be successful is select the right partner, a real supportive partner who is supporting you also beyond his or her comfort zone. And if you have that, I say a sample, okay, you have an interview next day. If he is the one ironing your blouse or minimum picking it up from the dry cleaner, he's the right one. And if not, skip him. Sorry, that's the situation. You will never make career with somebody sitting on the couch and asking for his third beer while you're doing this one. And at the end, you're contributing to the family salary, which is not unimportant, I think. And to pick female from the third and second line up. And I also want to encourage to have family because it's very important and it's a really wonderful thing to have family, children, grandmothers in one house. So, and if you don't have a good partner, look for your family support. They're great. Or pay it simply because it pays out and is an investment in your career.
Those are very valid points. I want to speak to you all as somebody that's hiring people. We have about 13 people that we employ around the world. We have about 6 women on our team. The number one challenge I face when I put job ads out, you're right, on the QA side, we see a lot of quality assurance people being women, but I just don't have enough applications coming into me that are women. Like, I want to hire more women, and I'm conscious of the fact that I need to hire more women. But the fact that if I get 100 resumes, maybe 25 women, 20 women, if that, particularly on the job. Some very low, like we're hiring a director of finance, probably 2 resumes, less than 2 resumes from women. So anyone that wants to take the question is, what do you do as an employer, and how do we, is this a problem you see, and what do we do to kind of fix that? We'll go Jeanette and then Cheryl.
Okay. So one thing we found, and there's been a fair bit of research on this, when a job has job criteria set out, men will apply to a job they don't have all the criteria for. Women, even if they're overly qualified, often won't apply for those positions. So it sounds counterintuitive, but actually set the bar a little bit lower. You will get more female applicants that are way overqualified. Women tend to not to apply to a job unless they have all those criteria. We tend to externalize things and sadly often think we're not competent, whereas men have a sense of bravado and will apply for a job that's much above their pay grade.
Cheryl?
Okay. I'm going to change your world right now, okay? In 2005, one of the things that I realized was that there were virtually no women. So I started Moms for Marijuana. We have over 8 million followers. And most of the people who were contacting me were women that had children with Dravet syndrome and epilepsy, or they were pediatric oncology patients or so forth. And a lot of them contacted me because they were, look, nobody wants to help me. I can't afford the medicine. I don't know what to do. I'm scared, and I don't want to lose my child. Well, in California was always a not-for-profit state, so we, on average, give away over 7,000 pounds of cannabis. And with all of the moms that were contacting me, I basically told them, look, I'm going to give you your life back. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to give you the cannabis for free. And I'm going to teach you how you can learn to do formulations. You can learn how to do extractions. You can learn how to make cannabis better. And you can learn how to change your child's life. And in Dravet syndrome, for example, Dravet syndrome clients or patients or children suffer an average about 300 seizures per day. When you can have 3 tiny drops of a new extraction that the mom has learned how to make that costs her nothing, and she's learning a skill, what we've done is we've taken a lot of those women, millions of women, and I have created jobs for over 200 of those women through our mentorship program. Anyone is welcome to sign up for it. We teach them jobs, and we employ right now a little over 100 women. Our staff is actually all women. It's not that I have anything against men. I love you guys, but women need this more. And there aren't a lot of other companies that are willing to provide them with training for free, the product for free, to give them the time with their children that they need. And same thing with veterans that come back with phantom limb pain, with PTSD. We teach their wives how to take care of their husband that no longer has legs. Some of our are quadruple amputees. And I'll tell you something, when it comes to employing women, I think it was at the last Toronto event, the Cannabis thing, where Dennis O'Leary was there, and he went on to, we were talking about how powerful women can be in this, and he was showing the statistics that he invests in companies primarily for women, and his data shows that they are the best employees. So we're very proud of that and very open to that, and one of the reasons I'm here in Malta is I hope to find some dynamic women that are interested in learning how to create and be involved in this business, and I'm happy to help them.
Thank you. We'll go to you, Sita, but isn't there something also to be said that the part of the plant, cannabis plant, the reason we're here, is actually a female plant, right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's kind of ironic
It's a girl.
that is the case. Sita, we'll go to you.
Shock the head off the males, yes.
And the funny thing about it, I don't know how many of you have grown your own cannabis garden, but it truly is magical, and I do feel that it's a spiritual plant, and you can actually feel the energy. When I started my very first garden in Upper California or Northern California, I would pitch a tent, and being a Beverly Hills lady, I'm not the setting kind of girl, but I used to sleep at night with my plants, and you can truly feel the energy from it. I know that might sound a little cray-cray, but it's true. It's a very wonderful thing.
Sita.
Yeah, I think we have to change a kind of mindset, and we have to teach on that, because when I was, promoting a job and giving a job out in the company, high level, so asking, and having the applications, there were two questions: salary and car. Nobody asked about the project. Nobody. And when a woman, I asked you, why don't you apply? She was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I have to try to see. So I think this is one part. And you have to step forward for your interest, as you do for your family, without any issues and with a lot of courage. So, take your chance also there. And another one part is, you need some humor. You must be really relaxed as a female, not to be like, ugh. And the point is, what I would say, in contrary to everybody, I don't want to be hired because I'm a woman. I want to be hired because I'm really great and I can do a fantastic job and do miracles. This is why I want to be hired. And honestly, I met a lot of females who are horrible leaders and are mean bosses. And I don't want to put a gloriole of, the Holy Maria putting everything in right order, because they can be really nasty. But here I would really to make a point with Mrs. Albright, who always said, there's a special hell for a woman who doesn't support other women. And I think this is true.
Oh, yes.
Marianne, you want to add?
In fact, I wanted to touch up on what both Jeanette and Sita said. We women tend to be perfectionists, very passionate, but a bit risk-averse. So when we're going to take up an opportunity, we tend to overthink it, whether I'm good enough, but I don't have the skill, so maybe I cannot apply for this position. We dwell a bit too much on things, and I think that we need to take the risk and go for it.
Exactly.
Also very important is the support that we get from other women. Since we are a bit overthinkers and perfectionists, we need a lot of encouragement. And if we don't get that from other fellow women who are doing our job and in the same industry and can understand us perfectly, I think that's the most enabling thing of all.
I completely agree. And I think there's one additional problem that's staring us in the face, even on this panel, even here, is anybody want to guess how many women of color are in this physical room currently? One person. And that's the reason I got her. And I mean, I was like, Sherry, you need to come because we need to get more people. There are people here from all around the world that have come to this show, and there is one woman of color that's here, and it's Sherry from Can Delta. But I think that's another problem is we don't appreciate how much people of color in general, but specifically women of color face in terms of a stigma. How do we sort of get them more involved? It's not like these people don't exist. It's not like these people don't want to apply for these jobs. But, this is another serious problem, is just women of color in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to give you a heads up because what you had said really hits home with me, because women, no matter what color they are, they just need empowerment, and they need to be believed in, and they need to be given a chance. And if they can be given a chance, and if they have that passion to learn, they have that right to learn. We are working very strongly with diversity programs and expungement throughout California and a lot of the other states, because here's what's interesting. When you look at the private prison system, which is the big problem because they have quotas to make, the amount of people of color in general are so overwhelmingly wrong. And I'm so proud of the fact that we worked for Amnesty and giving these people their lives back, and they also have the ability to raise funding and start their lives over again. But there are some people in some of our states that are still serving 15 years to life for a joint that they had in high school, and that's wrong, and we have to fight for that.
No, completely agree. And Sherry, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm actually going to get you to come up here and just speak to us a little bit about the real challenges that women of color actually face, because I think you're in a unique position. You know, we've talked about this. We've talked about you getting on boards, some of the stigma that you faced, you know, getting on those boards. But I'd really like for you to come up here and really just talk to us and firsthand tell us some of the challenges that women of color face. So I'm going to get off this panel and put you on.
Thanks, Deepak. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question. I think that I, first and foremost, identify myself as a person of color before I identify myself as a woman, just for the obvious reason, and that's what people see first, I guess. That's easy to blend in as being a woman. I really appreciate this panel here and that it's being brought to the forefront, particularly because this industry it's a new industry, so we have the opportunity to set the stage and to really make a difference in this industry when compared to, you know, some of the old industry you brought up, mining and the pharmaceutical industry. So we have the opportunity here to really make a difference. Some of the challenges that I've faced, yeah, I mean, it's really in line with what these ladies here are saying, with being taken seriously as a woman, as a person of color, of course. And I feel that, for me personally, what has really allowed me to be where I am right now. So I'm the CEO of a regulatory and scientific cannabis consulting company here in Canada, not here in Canada, in Canada. So coming here in Malta to really see what's going on here on this stage. But what has allowed me to have the opportunity that I'm in now, I feel, is, you know, really my education. So I've had to actually, I feel, increase my skills to be taken seriously. So I have a PhD in chemistry, and I think that has really allowed me to be where I am right now. And I think that what would have helped me from my perspective is to have mentors and to feel the support of not only other women, but also male advocates who are looking to support women. So it's not just the women that need to only band together, it's to have the support of their male colleagues and friends and husbands and partners to really be able to lift them up as well.
Yeah. So I don't want to, but
Well-
Sherry's amazing, and you know, there aren't a lot of women. You are, and we've been on other panels together in Canada. There are so few women in the space in general. So I think both in the United States and Canada, I think we saw this as a new opportunity, a new industry where I think we saw that we were hoping that it would be much more inclusive with women and minorities and more diverse. And unfortunately, I think it started at least at the grassroots level, but because of the capital requirements and other issues going on, we've lost the foothold that we initially had with women being an equal partner and minorities being more represented. I think Europe is a new opportunity to really focus on doing it right. So I'm hoping to see it's better here.
I just wanted to add that I don't work with just only women, but those are the people we generally hire. But in Beverly Hills or in Hollywood, it's a different scene. I mean, everything is free there, so the LGBTQ community is very open and board, but they can't get jobs either. So we are interested in the people who are passionate and coming work and see our vision and respect women. I've had guys come that want to work with us, but quite frankly, a lot of men have problems working for women. And it's not me, it's them. But other people that I work with, you know, it's not that I'm a guy hater or anything. I love men, I love women, I love kids, I love everybody. But women generally feel more comfortable coming to us, and I think we're one of the only female-led companies. I know you're one of the very few. I don't know of any other female CEOs at all. That's why we stick together all the time. But, you know, I'm just about empowering everyone and giving them a better quality of life and enjoying what time we have here as human beings.
Is this live? It is live. So I wanted to check, you know, Jeanette, you brought up something about women on boards, and that's a real challenge. And I want Sherry to comment on this as well, because, you know, I know what she went through when she accepted a board position, and I think part of it is definitely because she's a woman of color and a person of color, and is challenged from that perspective. So I want her to comment on this as well. But I want you to speak to the real challenge that you're seeing is as we look at boards and we look at representation on boards. Is there an issue? What is the issue? How do we resolve it?
It's very interesting. One of the funny things when I was trying to have a gender balanced board, one of my fellow board members, who happens to be a man, and not to male bash, but there's a pervasive thing in Canada, and hopefully not everywhere. He said, well, hopefully we can find a qualified candidate. I'm like, have you seen some of the board members that are out there? I mean, there are so many qualified women, but I think that because the culture of boards and we image, there was an interesting thing last week in Canada, somebody said, imagine the CEO sitting at their desk at the beginning of the day, starting a busy day, what are they wearing? And they just asked the general audience, and everyone said suit and tie. And no one thought it was a skirt or a dress. So we have this perception of board members and executives being men. We really need to change that mindset. And again, be more inclusive of women. I think one of the challenges is boards are a very hierarchical structure in most companies. And women, we tend to be more collaborative. I think we like to work together and support each other. And it doesn't always fit into that traditional board role. So we need to have more progressive board styles.
Sherry?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very, you have to go up that structure, right, to get to that level. And a lot of board members, they were previously CEOs, and again, it just goes back, there are less women CEOs. So then it just kind of goes down that way, right? And I had this opportunity because luckily, the publicly traded company that I got invited to join as a board member, they're very open and very aware of the fact that there's a lack of females that are in board positions as well as minorities. And of course, things like, my education obviously helped with that and my experience. But again, it really takes courage, I think, to be at a company to be aware enough and strong enough to invite women to the board and to stand up with them and say, okay, yeah, I've invited, there's women on my board, and it's not just one woman amongst a whole group of men, but where there's some equality between the number of male and female board members that are part of a board. So I think that this is changing. I think a lot of companies are becoming aware of this and it's becoming part of the broader conversation. This is, I think, just the beginning, but hopefully we can continue to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think that a point is also communication. When I'm watching female presentations, so it's sometimes, you say, we did it, and our team had a great idea. And we say in Germany, if you do good things, talk about it. So it was my idea to present that, and I had a great idea in this way. If it is your idea, so why not to say it? But it is sometimes perceived very warrior kind. And I think a very big issue is also, because I think it's a society issue, you have to raise strong daughters, not nice daughters, but strong daughters, and smart boys who respect that and realize that it is a real win to have also a warrior beside you.
Can I address that for just one
Absolutely.
moment? I have to, and I wanted to address what you had just said, raising strong daughters, and not was the other thing, but
And smart
okay.
boys.
So here's one of the funny things that I've always done when people come up to me. They're like, "Oh, you're actually very nice.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to be nice." And I'm like, "What were you expecting?" And they're, quite frankly, I was expecting a Beverly Hills bitch. And it's like, well, shocking, because we are nice people, but a lot of people, male and female, are intimidated by strong women. So they need to know that you can be strong and nice. It doesn't necessarily be exclusive.
Those are great points there. What I wanted to do, we have a few minutes left. What I wanted to do was I wanted each of you to tell us about two takeaways. One, the men in this room, what should they actually, if there's one thing you were to say to them, what should they take away? And the other is that the women in this room, what is the one thing that they should know? What should be their takeaway on this? I'd like to maybe start, Sherry, with you. Sorry, I threw you on the spot, but I couldn't help myself. There's no women of color in this room. You're the only physical one. So I'd like to start with you, and then we'll move down.
So I guess the first question was the men that you're...
If there's one thing you want men to take away in general, what should that be? And the one thing you want women to take away from, what would that be?
Sure. I think that men need to support the women that they are, allies with, to help to give them a voice and to encourage them. Candels was co-founded with myself and my partner Lucas, who also has a similar background to me when we started this company. And I think a lot of the clients that we have oftentimes think that he is the CEO. But he's always really great at supporting and sort of turning the stage back at me. So I think providing that support to the women that are your colleagues, it would be great. For the women in the room, I think that it's important to be in support of the other women, to act as mentors where you can, and to seek that out. I think that is one thing that I think would really help me, and I think if there's a way that you could create a platform for that, I think that should definitely be encouraged.
I would say for everyone in the room, if you know women that have sick children or a sick family member, and if you're working in the cannabis industry, probably a lot of people won't be working in the cannabis industry yet, but I urge you to have a mentorship program and a teaching program so that you can teach these parents how to take care of their children. And then next, I would urge you to realize that no matter what you do, whether you're an accountant, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a lobbyist, there are so many jobs that are going to be happening and coming up. And I can tell you in LA County alone, we're in the center of it in Beverly Hills, but in LA County alone, on record, what is paid taxes for? It's a $47 billion industry just in LA County. And with the black market still flourishing there, can you imagine if you can bring in a superior staff and a better company and really bring in people who are truly passionate and truly want to give back to society? I will be 60 in March, and I can tell you in my entire life, this has been the greatest thing I've ever done, and I am honored to be a part of it. And I think you will be too. It's very empowering. Thank you.
Marianne?
I think the take-home message I would like any man in the room to take with him today is that before judging any woman in front of him, I think for one moment they should close their eyes and imagine that that woman was a man. And then reassess the judgment. Would I have judged this person differently if that person was male? How do I reconsider my judgment now? For females, what I would like a woman here to take home with her is that we should admire each other. Admire and support.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing.
Luana? That's great.
Yes, my message would be that the gender equality is not just about rights. If we want to actually serve our societies, we must be representative of our societies. So on our end, at the Medicines Authority, for example, we have 3 out of 5 directors who are female. Our gender balance is 65% female to 35% male. So we have already outnumbered men. And in the cannabis field, all our team in cannabis is female. So this we do in line with Malta's strategic policy in supporting equality and equal opportunities, as well as that of the European Council and Commission. Now we also have the Commissioner for Equality, who is Maltese. So for all in the room, I would suggest to take our example, both in the cannabis field and in the field of equality, where Malta is at the forefront.
Done a great job.
Amazing. Jeanette?
That is amazing.
Yeah,
That is very good.
definitely.
I think my message for the men is, and I agree with what Marianne said, there was an interesting study a few years ago where CEOs were asked to judge resumes, and one had a distinctly female name, one had a distinctly male name, yet they were exact same resumes. And they always ranked the male, generally, a much higher percentage, ranked the males much higher. So it's really assessing our own biases and judgments, especially when it comes to people racially diverse and women. So it's really important that you do judge people effectively for who they are and their skill set, and not based on their name, their gender, or their skin color. For the women, it really is find a mentor. I like to do in my company what I prefer to call sponsorship. So mentorship is very important. but I like to make myself accountable for the success of people that I mentor and to help bring someone through. So I'll take my quality assurance person and bring her to some finance meetings or some product development meetings, or I'll take someone from cultivation and bring them through research meetings. Because I think it's really important to help people see the wider scope of what a CEO does. And it's really empowering those people to see those roles so they can aspire to it. And again, it's affiliating with things like Women on Board, things like that really empower women to see themselves as CEOs or directors of public companies.
Reggae?
Yeah. See the women as cost effective, mainly because most of the women in this industry are advocates and they have sick children, like Charlotte in the UK with the epilepsy boy, and see them as cost effective, and also the advocates that promote the industry. If you don't have the advocates, you don't have an industry. Remember that. And use their force to something in your company. For the women, I think medical cannabis, or cannabis as such, it has a culture with cultivation and dirt and something like that. But more and more the pharma industry get into this, all the women will be there. And that's what we can see in Denmark. So the women will be the intellectuals in the pharma, and the men would work with the cultivation. I will predict in the future.
And last but not least, Sita.
Yeah. To the men, I would say, well, treat us well, because we are treating you well, supporting and encouraging you through all your lives, as your grandmother, as your mother, as your sisters, as your partners. We admire you as your daughters. And to the female, I would say, take decisions, because decisions taker and decision maker are strong and are leaders, and leaders are powerful. And I think you have to pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. We have time for one question. We have a question in the audience, and then we'll wrap it up right after. So one quick question, if you could make it quick, and one quick answer.
Not a question. I'm from Israel. I'm an entrepreneur. I have established a cannabis-based company. We have established a forum for women in cannabis. We now have people joining us from the US, from Europe, and etc. I'm inviting you all. We also have established a mentoring program within this forum, so you're all invited to join us.
Thank you. I'd like to take this time to thank everybody on the panel, especially Sherry, very brave for getting on last minute. I threw you into it. But if you join me in giving these ladies a round of applause, that would be great.